What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality podcast. I'm your host. I'm Caitlin Kenneth Smith, and today's topic, we're going to talk all about mastering the basics, which is the real quote-unquote secret to fat loss, to strength, to building muscle, to having a resilient mindset, to being healthy and living a long, thriving life. The secret is to master the basics, the fundamentals, the foundation to your home. So imagine, and I really love this analogy because I feel like a lot of people can connect with it, is imagine you're building a house and you don't focus on building a strong foundation. You kind of just rush through the foundation. You know it's not very sturdy, not very stable, and you start piling all this fancy shit on top of it. It might work for a little bit, but eventually that house is going to crumble, especially when a storm comes through or when a challenging time in life comes through. That wind, that rain, that foundation is going to crack and crumble, and all the fancy stuff that you put on top of it isn't going to matter because you didn't take the time and the effort to build the strong foundation, to master the basics. Now it's February 6th, and here's the thing. We're over a month into the new year, and I keep bringing this up almost on every single episode of the podcast because right now it is imperative that you continue to be reminded that the basics, the foundations, these things that I teach you week after week on the podcast, they are what lead you to success on a fat loss journey, on a health and a fitness journey, whatever your goal is. Right now, a lot of people are starting to get tired. They're starting to not be as motivated as they were on January 1st. They're maybe starting to struggle a little bit when it comes to getting in the workouts, hitting their nutrition goals, sticking to their sleep schedule, because they don't have that same fire that they did on January 1st. So all of the things that they committed to on January 1st now are starting to cause them to feel like they are drowning because they made these goals, or they made the process to their goals in an extremely motivated state of mind, where now that the motivation is dying and that life is setting in and things are coming up and they're having all of these challenges, they're not able to sustain what they planned they could. For example, if somebody said, hey, January 1st comes along, I want to get into the best shape of my life this year. I'm going to train. I'm going to go to the gym 5 to 6 times every single week. Now, if that person hadn't even been consistent with 1 day a week in months or years, it's very, very difficult to say, I'm going to 5 to 6x that overnight just because it's January 1st. And they made that goal, they made that commitment in an extremely motivated state of mind. But now what happens on January, or once January motivation starts to cool down a little bit now that it's February 6th, that 5 to 6 days a week is getting really challenging. And that 5 to 6 days a week starts to turn into 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 1 to 2. And it isn't even the lack of consistency, which we'll talk about, because consistency in the right things, in the things that align with your goals, is absolutely imperative on this journey. But when you set a goal to do something 5 days a week and you only do it 3 times a week, sure, you're going to see great results getting into the gym 3 days a week because before you were doing 0 days a week. However, it's the mindset behind it. You planned and you committed to doing 5 days a week, but you keep failing because you're only doing 3 days a week. So in your mind, you are failing instead of winning. And if you're failing over and over and over again, eventually you're going to give up on yourself, because confidence is built through wins, through celebrating wins, through stacking wins consistently. Confidence is simply the memory of winning. So the more often we win, the more often we recognize those wins and celebrate those wins, the more confident that we are going to become, and the more likely we are to stick with our goals and accomplish the goals. So, setting realistic expectations, setting high standards, but realistic standards that you know you can do for the rest of your life when it comes to health and fitness is the most important thing. So, honestly, setting the process that you follow, the plan that you follow in an unmotivated state of mind is probably your best bet, because you're not going to set these unrealistic goals that, hey, they work now, but in a few weeks when life starts to happen, I'm going to continue winning. And a lot of people come to me. I've been a health and a fitness coach for over 10 years, almost 12 years at this point. I've coached thousands of people in person and online from all different walks of life. And one of the biggest complaints that I hear when people come to me for help or even to ask a question is, hey, I'm stuck. I'm stuck. I've been doing this for a few weeks, a few months, a few years, and I feel like I'm working so hard, but I'm not seeing results. And on the last episode of the podcast, I kind of dove into a couple of different things that could be the reason to why you're not seeing results despite doing the work. Now, the thing that I want to voice to you, if you're that person, if you're like, hey, that's me, I'm stuck, I want you to think of it like this. You're not stuck because you need a new diet. You're not stuck because you haven't mastered the basics. Everybody wants this secret hack that doesn't actually exist. So they spend so much time, effort, and energy trying to look for this hack when they could be using that same time, effort, and energy to focus on the basic, fundamental things that deliver results every single time. But that's not glamorous. That's not sexy. That doesn't get the likes or the sales. The basics, when done consistently, are what actually gets you results. So today I'm going to break down why most people fail, how to fix it, and how to make progress without overcomplicating it. Social media, the internet, media in general is an incredible tool. Why? Because we have so much information at the palm of our hands. We can literally look anything up that we want to learn about. But most people don't use the tool appropriately. They use it in a sense to gather too much information. Everything's overcomplicated. Everybody's overwhelmed, so they never take action, or they take action on the wrong things, or they're not consistent long enough because they'll follow one fad for a week and then they'll scroll on social media, see somebody doing something else, follow that fad for a week, and it just doesn't work because you have to be consistent. Now, again, I want to reiterate this before kind of diving in. You're not stuck. You're just not consistent. You're not plateaued. You're just not pushing hard enough in the basics. You're not having extreme discipline to the basics. Pushing hard enough doesn't necessarily mean, oh, when I go into the gym, I need to bury myself. That's not what I mean with that. Most people who think they are plateaued are not plateaued. One, they just haven't given the plan enough time. Two, if the scale doesn't go down for 1, 2, 3 weeks, you're not plateaued, because the scale is not the only thing that equates to progress. In fact, in my opinion, it is the least valuable tool, but I know that it is a tool that we need to use. You don't need a new plan. You need to actually follow the one that you have. Your results, or lack thereof, are 100% your responsibility. Nobody can do the work for you. You can hire a coach to guide you, and if you hire a terrible coach who's guiding you in the wrong direction, that's kind of on you for not doing your research on coaches, because you can't just pick a coach because their marketing is pretty on social media. There are so many incredible coaches out there who have a mission to help people and who have the knowledge to help people and the experience to help people, and it's their life and their passion. However, there are also a lot of coaches who fucking suck, frankly. But unfortunately, it seems to me that most of the coaches who get the most attention, who get the most clients, and obviously this isn't 100% true, but I see it way too often than it needs to be, are just really fucking good at marketing themselves on social media. But those people don't last. That's also what I found, is that if some coach out there, and if you're a coach or a trainer who's listening to this, please take my advice, because while I'm not an expert, I have been doing this for 12 years, so I know a little bit about it. I've seen people who grow their social media to hundreds of thousands of followers through doing viral content that gets clicks, that gets views, that gets likes, that gets comments, that gets more followers, so they have more people to talk to about their coaching. Thus, they have more people who will probably apply and go into their coaching. However, because that person isn't giving any valuable information, they are probably not acquiring clientele who will take this seriously. And frankly, because they're so obsessed with dancing on TikTok for views in order to get more clients to pay their bills, they probably suck as a coach and their business doesn't sustain. I've seen it a lot. So if you're a coach or a trainer out there and you're worried about the fact that, I don't have a lot of views on social media, think about it like this. If you have 100 followers on social media, if you have 100 people watching a reel that you created on a valuable piece of fitness or nutrition content that actually makes a difference in somebody's life, think of a room full of 100 people that you're talking to. That's 100 people. That's 100 opportunities for you to change somebody's life. So worry less about the views and worry more about the content that you're putting out. Is it valuable? Can somebody come to my page and get results without having to invest a single dollar in my services? And does this content help somebody? That's what you should be thinking about. Does it inspire somebody? Does it educate somebody? Does it entertain somebody? Not, does it get the most views possible? Because a lot of the times when something gets the most views possible, is there valuable content that gets a lot of views? Abso-fucking-lutely. However, there's also very invaluable content that gets a lot of views and shares and gets more eyes on you, but doesn't necessarily drive home your mission. So stay true to yourself if you're a coach or a trainer in the space. And if you're somebody who's watching on social media trying to find a good coach and trainer, keep those things in mind as well. If somebody's free content sucks, what makes you think that their paid content is going to be any better? So let's get back to why you're stuck. Why do people stay stuck? I want to call out your bullshit. Now, most people are chasing the next big thing. Fad diets, crazy workouts, some magical supplement, but they skip the fundamentals. Everybody starts to get obsessed with all the things that start to gain traction on social media. Cold plunging was one of those things in 2024 that really gained a lot of traction. I cold plunge every single day, so I love cold plunging for me. I love the benefits that it has on my inflammation, on my recovery, on my mental clarity, on my anxiety. However, a lot of people look at cold plunging as something that they absolutely need to do in order to achieve a certain look, in order to achieve a certain level of success, when that's not true. Why are all these gurus out there preaching that we need to do a cold plunge every single morning? You need to do a cold shower every single morning, because they've found benefit from it. However, there's no secret to it, because those people who are successful in cold plunging, they are not successful because they are cold plunging. They are successful because they are not skipping the fundamentals. They're doing the work. They're doing it consistently. They're showing up on the days when they don't feel like doing it, and they're keeping the commitments that they make to themselves and seeking discomfort, regardless of how they feel. So like I said, people are looking for new fad diets, new crazy workouts, something magical in a supplement form that's going to be that next hack, that secret that they've been looking for their whole lives that's going to get them the results that they want. But you looking for another hack is just an excuse for not doing the work. If you keep quitting on the basics to try the next fast solution, the next quick fix, you'll never build the habits you need for long-term success. Let's talk about Ozempic for a second. And this is something that I will do a separate podcast on all GLP-1s, because it is something that is taking over our fitness space. And the way that I know that is if people who are outside of the fitness and nutrition industry start talking about it, that's when I know that it's mainstream, and that's when I know, hey, this thing is here to stay and it's making an impact. I've had clients who've been on Ozempic. I've had a lot of experience not taking it myself, but researching, coaching people through it. The one thing that I want people to look at when it comes to Ozempic or any GLP-1. There are side effects, as with anything, negative and positive. It is not a steroid. It is not a drug. It is a peptide. It is naturally occurring in the body. However, it is something that I've seen is very easily abused because people look at it as the hack. People look at it as the solution when it is a tool to be used alongside the actual solution, which is, if you're starting to get the theme of this episode, following the foundations. Because I've had clients find success with Ozempic and I've had clients find no success with Ozempic. And here's the thing that I said for my clients. If we are taking a GLP-1 and it's your decision, I will not fight your decision because it is your life. You get to choose where you spend your money. However, if you are not hitting your protein goal, hitting your calorie goal, or strength training, then I refuse to coach you through that because you will not see success. And my goal is to help you see success and become the best version of you. The problem with GLP-1s is that most people, because of the appetite suppressant effects, cannot eat enough protein or calories to sustain muscle growth. In fact, most of them can't even eat enough to maintain muscle. So yes, they lose a ton of weight, but in the process, lose a ton of muscle. And when we lose muscle, it negatively impacts our metabolism, which causes us to burn less calories, which causes our bodies to adapt to the low amount of calories that we're eating, and usually causes nutrient deficiencies and health problems long term. Because Ozempic doesn't change your habits. You change your habits. Ozempic can be a tool that you can use on the journey, but it cannot be the tool. So again, as with anything, it's a tool that can be abused. But you don't need another fat-burning supplement. You need to stop eating like an asshole. And eating like an asshole could be starving yourself, could be under-eating, could be eating great during the week and then going off the rails on the weekend, could be just completely overeating. Eating like an asshole looks different for every single individual. But the biggest thing I want you to take away from that is the reason why you're stuck, the reason why people get stuck here is because they quit on the basics. They don't focus on long-term success. They focus on the next hack. So let's talk about what those basics are so that way you can leave this episode with actual tangible things that you can do to move the needle forward and stop looking at those quick fixes and start developing more time into these basics. So the basics that I like to talk about, there are 5 things. And before we get into the 5 things, like to think about fitness and nutrition as 3 big pillars. 1 being fitness, 2 being nutrition, and 3 being recovery, because all 3 of those things matter when it comes to you earning the best results possible and sustaining the results that you earn. So the 5 things that fall under those 3 pillars of fitness, nutrition, and recovery are eating in a calorie deficit. And this is if you're looking to lose body fat. Obviously, if you're looking to build muscle, you want to eat in a calorie surplus. If you're looking to maintain your weight or maybe do a recomp, which means you're building muscle, losing body fat, you want to be more in a maintenance phase. However, you have to manage your calories, manage the amount of food that you're eating, manage your portions. However you want to look at it, you need to manage calories. That's number 1. Again, it'll look different for everybody because it's going to depend on your goal, but you need to manage calories. There's no magic diet required here. You don't need to do keto. You don't need to do carnivore. You don't need to do paleo. You don't need to do veganism. You don't need to do the Mediterranean diet. You just need to manage your calories by tracking your food, weighing your food, understanding portion sizes, knowing how much you're consuming. Because just like with finances, if you have no idea how much you are burning or how much money you're going through, and you have no idea how much money is coming in, how the hell are you going to be able to manage your finances so that you don't go under? So you have to manage your calories, manage your food. And don't just guess your way through this. You have to accurately weigh out your food, accurately weigh out everything that you have that has calories. Yes, those fancy Starbucks lattes that you have every single morning, they have calories, usually a lot more than an actual meal. So it's important to manage those things, because the amount of times where I have somebody come to me and they say, yes, I track calories. And then I start diving in and asking deeper questions like, oh, well, how do you weigh your fruit? How do you weigh your rice? How do you weigh your pasta? Are you tracking your sauces? Are you tracking your oils? Are you tracking your liquid calories? And they're like, oh, no, I'm not doing that. And then we realize, oops, you aren't in a calorie deficit. That's why you're stuck, because you're eating more than you're burning. And then if we start just tracking these things, not necessarily cutting them out, but tracking them and managing them, then we can hit our calories, hit our protein, and look, we start seeing results. It's usually very simple. And the second thing, number 2, going off of that, is hitting your protein goal. Now, carbs and fats are extremely important. I don't want people to think that carbs and fats are not important. Fats are an essential nutrient, essential for hormone production, essential for recovery, for joint health. Carbohydrates are your body's preferred source of energy, not just for your muscles, not just for your workouts, but also for your brain. So it's very important. They also help to reduce stress by producing serotonin. But protein is the number 1 driver for fat loss because it helps with the muscle building and repair and growth process. Protein also helps to keep you more satiated, so you're going to be more full. When you're more full, it makes it easier for you to remain in that calorie deficit and to feel good. Protein is also essential for so many other things. Obviously, fat loss being the most important thing and the most marketable thing I like to think of. It's the thing that's most important for most people. If you come to me and you have a fat loss goal, I could tell you all about how protein helps with hair, skin, joints, tendons, cell membrane health. It helps with literally everything in your body that requires growth and repair. Protein is required. We would die if we did not eat protein. Our bodies would just not function. However, for somebody who's coming to me with fat loss, I need to emotionally connect them to why eating enough protein is important. So if I just say, hey, well, protein is good for hair, skin, nails, joints, and tendons, they don't give a shit. They don't give a shit. They care about, how is protein going to help me reach my fat loss goals and achieve the body that I want? Perfect. I know exactly how it does that. It helps keep you more satiated. It helps build lean muscle tissue, which helps you burn more calories at rest, which helps you burn more fat. You're going to get that lean, toned look that you've always wanted. So protein's important. Hitting your daily protein goal, which is going to be 1 gram per pound of your goal body weight in protein. Keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it with any of these things. Number 3 is strength training, ideally 3 to 5 times a week. Now, I say ideally because if you're doing 0 days a week, doing 1 day is going to be better than doing 0. Doing 2 days is going to be better than 1 day. Doing 2 days or doing 3 days is going to be better than 2 days, right? Now, doing more isn't necessarily always the case, right? Because some people, most people, based on the lifestyle that most people live, are going to find a sweet spot at that 3 to 4 day range, because then they can split it up and they can celebrate those wins because they don't have to miss workouts, because 3 days is very achievable for most people. But again, I need to reiterate strength training, because most people, when they start on a fitness journey, look at what is going to help me burn the most amount of calories. And if you were to look at that, if you were to Google what exercise burns the most amount of calories, running would probably come up. However, running does not help you lose body fat. Now, if you are running, you will burn more calories. Correct. However, your body does adapt to cardio very quickly because there's not a lot of progression that comes with it. You can only run so much, right? If you start off with 3 miles and then you do 4 and then you do 5 and then you do 6, it's like, okay, well, now are we applying too much stress from where we can't recover? Are we fueling our bodies enough? It gets too complicated. With strength training, you will build muscle. With running, you will not build muscle. Maybe a little bit, but probably not. It's just a completely different energy system. So we're chasing adaptation. Think of it that way. We're not chasing a calorie burn. We're not chasing what makes me sweat more, what makes me more sore. We are chasing an adaptation. Strength training, when applied appropriately, you're breaking down muscle tissue while you train. You build it back up through the recovery process, through proper nutrition, through proper sleep, through proper recovery. And you will adapt to get stronger, which will build more muscle, burn more body fat, increase your metabolic rate. That's what we want. That leads to better body composition. Less body fat, more lean muscle. You look toned, you look good, you feel good. With running, the adaptation is your body starts to become more efficient at that activity by burning less calories. So now we're burning less calories doing the same amount of work. And we're almost like a hamster running on a wheel. So strength training, think of it that it is a way to teach your body how to burn more calories on its own. That's a very general way of putting it, but I think that it hits for most people. Number 4 is walking or movement. Now, the reason why I want to talk about walking, I'm not saying running, I'm not saying cardio, I'm saying walking, movement. It is the most basic, fundamental thing that humans are meant to do, and the most basic, fundamental thing that most humans don't do enough of. Walking helps with so many things. It helps with mental health, helps with physical health, with cardiovascular health. You just feel good. Like, take a day where you're sitting on your ass in the office all day versus a day where you're out walking around. Which day do you feel better? Usually the day when you're walking around. Now, some people get really obsessed with steps and numbers, so I'd like to throw out a number for people to follow. Research shows that between 7,500 and 10,000 steps a day can reduce all-cause mortality risk. So that's kind of where I like to throw people at. However, if you're somebody who's averaging 2,000 steps right now, we're going to just bump that up by 2,000. So we're going to go to 4,000. Then we're going to bump it up by another 2,000 to get to 6,000, and then try to find what fits best for you between that 7,500 to 10,000 step range. Movement is important, and walking is super simple to incorporate into your routine. The way that I like to tell my clients to do it is, hey, you eat breakfast, you eat lunch, you eat dinner. Cool. Go for a 5 to 10 minute walk after breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Not only are you going to get more steps and accumulate more movement, but eating or walking after you eat has been shown to improve digestion and improve blood sugar. Win, win, win. Plus, it just makes it easy and it's way more sustainable versus any other type of cardio. And there's less risk for injury. There's more risk for consistency. And the final thing I'm going to put into, it's kind of like two things, but they go into that recovery pillar: hydration and sleep. Both of these things are unbelievably important. Hydration, if your cells aren't hydrated properly, your cells are not happy. They can't do what they are meant to do. They're not working as efficiently as they possibly can. If your muscles aren't hydrated, they're not going to recover as fast. If your muscles aren't recovering as fast, your workouts are probably going to suck. You're not going to be able to perform, but also they're not going to be able to recover. Thus, you won't build as much muscle. Thus, you won't burn as much body fat. Think of it like this. Water keeps our body happy and moving the right way. So if we can hydrate ourselves to keep it moving in the right way, that's what's important. I like to tell my clients 100 to 120 ounces a day of water is ideal for most people. So falling in that range is probably going to help you. But again, with anything, if you're only drinking 20 ounces of water today, cool, let's try to hit 40 tomorrow, right? We stair step it up. We make it realistic because that's how we build habits. Progress over perfection. Consistency over perfection. And then sleep is a huge thing that most people fuck up. Most people just don't care about it because a lot of us are stuck in this hustle culture. More caffeine, less sleep. More work, less sleep. Sleep is for the weak. I'll sleep when I'm dead. Like, that's stupid. That's so stupid. Recovery is underrated. Sleep is underrated. Aim to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night. Not in bed, because the reality is most of us take about 30 minutes to go to sleep. So if you want 8 hours of sleep, plan to be in bed for 8.5 hours. Plan to wake up and go to bed consistently around the same time. Don't ignore your sleep, because sleep literally impacts everything. It impacts your performance during your workouts. It impacts your performance during your day. It impacts your willpower, your ability to stick to your nutrition plan. It impacts your hunger, your cravings, your satiation. It impacts everything. It can even impact the scale. If you have a shitty night of sleep, you're probably holding on to water. You're probably more inflamed because your cortisol is a little bit elevated. Thus, the scale will probably go up, and it's not related to body fat gain. It's related to water weight and inflammation. However, if the scale goes up, it fucks your mind up, and you can't ignore that. So, you know the basics now. You know the 5 things. Manage your calories, hit your protein goal, strength train, walk, hydration, and sleep. Now, the truth is, most people know what to do. Most of you have probably heard these things hundreds to thousands of times. You just don't do it consistently enough to see results. So I want you to forget about the gimmicks. I want you to forget about the hacks. And if you do these 5 things consistently, you will see results guaranteed. Guaranteed. The basics work every single time. Don't overcomplicate it. It's not about knowing the basics. It's not about knowing this information. It's about actually doing them, applying them over and over and over again. Most people fail because they expect perfect results in 2 weeks, and then they quit when they don't see it. But the truth is, the results come when you stack up wins over months, over years of consistency. So the person who follows the basics at 80% for 6 months will always beat the person who goes all in for 2 weeks and quits. So focus on being consistently good instead of occasionally great. And if you're ready to be consistent, to really be consistent, and you want to stop starting over, I want you to pick one of the 5 basics, and commit to doing it every single day for the next 7 days, then stack on the next one. And if you're ready to actually stay consistent and want somebody to hold you accountable, I am taking on new clients, and you can apply down below in the show notes in the link that is called Apply for Coaching. No bullshit, just results, just accountability, just real effort. So remember, guys, you don't need a new plan. You need to actually stick with the one that works. Master the basics, be consistent, and I promise you'll finally see the results that you're chasing. If this episode was valuable to you, please share it with at least one person. Share it on your social media. Tag me at Caitlin Kenna Fitness. I love to see you guys listening, and I love to see you guys sharing. And go out today and do one thing that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be.